What's up, everybody? Your boy Pat back again with another edition of Second Take. Today's topic of the day is, does LeBron James actually make his teammates better?
This is a Heat Rocks production.
Now, before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell as it helps out the channel. Now, does LeBron James actually make his teammates better? We all know LeBron James is a superstar in today's NBA. He has by far exceeded the expectations that people had for him when coming out of high school. He is on pace to be in the conversation, if not already in the conversation, as the greatest player of all time. But is there any truth that LeBron James actually makes his teammates better? This recent tweet here by Magic Johnson states that LeBron James does in fact make his teams better, according to Magic Johnson. But I'm here to report the facts, and I say the facts say otherwise. Now, in getting this list together, I passed up on a lot of players that I wanted to put into the conversation for various reasons, and I'll give you some examples. I didn't put guys in like Chris Bosh or Kevin Love because of the fact that they were leading their teams respectively in Toronto and in Minnesota as the number one option. And then when playing with James, in Bosh's case in Miami, he played with James as the number one and Wade as the number two, making him the number three. So I felt that wasn't a fair comparison for LeBron, because clearly Bosh would look like he was worse, but in fact he had just played a different role. When looking at Kevin Love, pretty much the same argument. When he was in Minnesota, he was a number one option, and when he came to Cleveland, he was a number three option behind the likes of LeBron James and Kyrie Irving, which also wouldn't be a fair argument to say that LeBron James made Kevin Love or Chris Bosh worse. I also didn't take into consideration D Wade or Kyrie Irving because they were an easy argument that I could make, saying that these guys pretty much stayed the same. LeBron didn't make them better. He didn't make them worse. They pretty much stayed where they were at with LeBron or without LeBron when you look at the stats. Other guys that I did not take into consideration for this argument because of age, these guys played in the latter portion of their career with LeBron James, and it also would not be a fair argument to say LeBron didn't make these guys better, because clearly they weren't better with LeBron, they were actually worse. These are guys like Mike Miller, Kyle Korver, Ray Allen, and most recently Danny Green. So I wanted it to be a fair conversation that I had in looking at players that were not early in their career, not late in their career, not a number one option, but pretty much a lot of role players that would be able to give this conversation its just due as far as being fair to LeBron. And what I found is 5 players that I want to take a look at and show you how their stats essentially either were the same with LeBron versus without LeBron, or they actually were worse players with LeBron. And when they went to other situations or had come from a previous situation, they were much better players. And I wanted to go over 5 different players. The first one I want to take a look at is Carlos Boozer. Carlos Boozer played with LeBron James in Cleveland in the 2003-2004 season. Carlos Boozer with LeBron James that year averaged 15.5 points per game, 11.4 rebounds per game, 2 assists a game on 52% field goal percentage. His career, he's a 16.2 career scorer, which is better without LeBron than with LeBron. 9.5 rebounds as a career rebounder. 2.2 assists for his career, which is more than he averaged than when playing with LeBron on the same 52% field goal percentage. By comparison, when Carlos Boozer went to Utah to play with Darren Williams, he was a much better player with Darren Williams than he was with LeBron. Here are some stats to look at. In Utah, he was a 19.3 points per game scorer, 10.5 rebounds per game, 2.9 assists, 54% field goal. 3 of those 4 stats, he is better playing without LeBron. Heading into the number 2 guy I want to take a look at, and this is Larry Hughes. Many people probably forgot about Larry Hughes. He played with LeBron in the 05-06 season and the 06-07 season in Cleveland. Let's take a look at his stats and how they compare with LeBron and without LeBron. In 05-06, Larry Hughes averaged 15.5 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, 3.6 assists per game, and 1.3 steals per game, while shooting 41% from the floor and 37% from the three-point line. That is with LeBron. Next season with LeBron, the 06-07 season, he averaged 14.9 points per game, 3.8 rebounds per game, 3.7 assists per game, 1.5 steals per game, on 40% shooting from the field and 33% from the three-point line. When looking at his career, they are very similar to what he did without LeBron versus what he did with LeBron. He's a career 14.1 scorer, 4.2 rebounds, 3.1 assists, 1.5 steals on 41% field goal percentage and 31% from 3. Clearly, LeBron hasn't made Larry Hughes better or worse. He's pretty much the same player whether he plays with LeBron or not. However, prior to Larry Hughes making it to Cleveland in 05-06, he played for Washington in the 04-05 season, and he was a 22-point scorer. He grabbed 6.3 rebounds, 4.7 assists, 2.9 steals on 43% shooting from the field. Let's take a look at Jordan Clarkson's split year between LA and Cleveland. In LA, Jordan Clarkson averaged 14.5 points. In Cleveland, 12.6. He averaged in LA 3.0 rebounds. In Cleveland, 2.1. And in LA, he averaged 3.3 assists. In Cleveland, 1.7. He shot 45% in LA, 46% in Cleveland, 32% for 3, and 41% for 3 in Cleveland. 3 of the 5 stats, Jordan Clarkson was better, scoring more points, getting more rebounds, getting more assists, shooting only a point difference, and 3-point percentage. He was a much more effective player in Cleveland than when he was in LA. But overall, I will say it's a draw. These 2 stat lines are very similar, and you could probably argue one way or another. But what I can really tell you is LeBron James didn't make Jordan Clarkson a better player that year. And in fact, let's look at the 18-19 season, the year after, when LeBron decided to leave Cleveland. Jordan Clarkson wound up staying in Cleveland that year, and he averaged 16.8 points per game, 3.3 rebounds per game, 2.4 assists per game, shot 45% from the field, and 33% from three-point range. So he wound up scoring more, rebounding more, assisting more, shot about the same from the field, and slightly less from the three-point line than when he played with LeBron in Cleveland. So I would say overall, I'm going to give a slight edge to Jordan Clarkson in this regard, being better without LeBron. And if you look at his career numbers, it is basically more of the same. 15.3 points per game, 3.3 rebounds per game, 2.6 assists per game, on 44% shooting from the field and 34% from the three-point line. Let's get into number 4. This is Lonzo Ball, the highly touted Lonzo Ball from the LeVar Ball family. the oldest son, played with LeBron James in the 18-19 season in LA. He averaged 9.9 points per game, 5.3 rebounds per game, 5.4 assists per game, and shot 41% of the field and 33% from three. The year prior to LeBron actually getting there, the 17-18 season, Ball played much better. Averaged 10.2 points per game, 6.9 rebounds per game, 7.2 assists per game, shot 36% from the field and 31% from the three-point line. Keep in mind that was Ball's rookie year, probably his worst shooting performance career to date. But if you look at his career overall, he's an 11.7 points per game scorer, 5.8 rebounds per game, 6.4 assists per game on 40% shooting and 35% from three. Clearly, LeBron didn't make Lonzo Ball better, made him slightly worse in my opinion, and didn't make the playoffs. And coming in at number 5, this will be the last guy on the list, but it's more of the same. Rodney Hood played 17-18 season in Cleveland with LeBron for half a year when Cleveland tried to blow up the team and get a spark because they weren't performing to the level they were anticipating. And 17-18, he played the first half of the year in Utah. Here's his stats from Utah versus his stats in Cleveland. Utah, 16.8 points per game to Cleveland, 10.8 points per game. Rebounds in Utah, 2.8 to Cleveland's 2.6. Assists in Utah, 1.7 to Cleveland's 1.4. Shooting, 42% in Utah, 44% in Cleveland. Three-point percentage, 39% in Utah, 35% in Cleveland. Clearly, LeBron James didn't make this guy better. He actually made him slightly worse. And if you look at his career numbers mimic his Utah numbers that half a year. And it just goes to show you that Jordan Clarkson overall in his career has been a better player without LeBron than with LeBron. But nevertheless, career numbers, 11.3 points per game, 2.7 rebounds per game, 1.8 assists on 42% shooting, and 37% from the three-point line. So overall, going over the 5 guys, I would say Carlos Boozer, once leaving LeBron James, established himself at a pretty decent big man in Utah, played very well with Darren Williams, and overall was a better player without LeBron. Larry Hughes, more of a role player, but the couple of years that he was with LeBron, he definitely was nowhere near the player that he was when he was in Washington. Jordan Clarkson, clearly, this past year, he won 6th Man of the Year in Utah. And he has shown that he is a better player, not only in the split season in 17-18 with the Lakers and Cleveland, that he was a better player without LeBron, but also in his career, he's been a better player than without LeBron. And Lonzo Ball clearly has been a better player without LeBron than he is with LeBron. And then what we just went over in Rodney Hood. Rodney Hood, half a season in 17-18 with Utah, half a season in 17-18 with Cleveland, was a better player in Utah, and overall for his career has been a better player when he's played without LeBron. So there you have it. I would say clearly the conversation of LeBron James making his teammates better is a false narrative, and many people who believe this, I've just debunked this by giving you all the stats you need. Shout out to everybody rocking me on Instagram, YouTube, the Anchor app. You can also find me on Spotify, as well as Apple and Google Podcasts. It's your boy Pat. Peace. Catch you on the next one.